Hi, Subert. One quick question. Hey, just your thoughts. Right now, obviously, for you, 20th year in the league, 18th training camp. Have you been able to contextualize all of it? And just, is this any different than any other rest of them?
Not really. Not in terms of like it being 20 years. And I mean, I could definitely sit here and compare, this training camp to other training camps, but in the grand scheme, it actually doesn't feel that much different than most years. You get here, it's a lot of jitters on the first day, a lot of teaching on the first day, and then every day hopefully gets better from there. So they're all kind of similar in that way.
All right, thanks, Percy. Pepper Persley, you're up next. Pepper.
Hey Sue, how's it going?
Good, Pepper. How are you?
Good. I was just wondering, after winning the championship last season, there's obviously going to be a target on your back. So how can this team use this training camp to prepare for having that target?
I mean, to be honest, I don't think we're going to think of it in that way. I think even though we are the defending champs, and of course that's how everyone's going to see us, we kind of have our own challenges given, we had some key pieces leave the team. We're going to have some new faces that we have to get acclimated. Right now, when you look around in training camp, there's not that many returners in camp currently. So our challenges are kind of within. I can't even get to the part where teams are going to look at us and we're going to have a target on our back. I can't get to that part yet. We have a lot of work to do in the short term, which is for the next 2-3 weeks.
All right, so I'll ask you about that later. Thank you.
Thanks, Pepper. Let's go to Michelle Smith. Michelle.
Hey, Sue, happy Sunday.
Hi, you too.
Playing with Candace Parker. I mean, not Candace Parker. Candace Dupree, sorry. Can you just talk a little bit about having a veteran presence like Candace on the roster and what you think she's going to bring and kind of fit that she'll bring to the team?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at Candace, both as a teammate, even though it was briefly with USA Basketball, but then as a competitor, she's always somebody who is pretty steady out there. She's a confident player in that she knows who she is and she does the things that she's good at. And for us, and the way I think it can fit is we're a team that really relies on our post players hitting outside shots. That's just kind of how our offense works. I mean, you look at our personnel in Stewie, in Natasha, even obviously with Sadie's and Ezzy, they get a lot of open shots. And the other thing we do with our post players is we run a ton of pick and rolls. And I think those are two things that Candace just naturally does well. That's just a part of her game. So I think it'll be a pretty seamless fit in terms of that aspect of it. And then to your point, the veteran, just the leadership. Again, to me, what that looks like with her is just somebody who's consistent. You really know what you're going to get for a long time when you were playing against Candace, you know exactly what she was going to do. And now playing with her already in the first day, you can see those things come out.
Perfect. Thank you, Michelle. Kevin Pelton, go ahead.
Hey, Sue, how much of a gauge do you get of where you're at physically on the first day of camp, or do you already have a pretty good sense of that as you ramped up when with USA?
Yeah, the ramp up is usually harder than camp. A lot of times in these training camps, this isn't to toot my own horn by any means. It's probably to toot Susan Borchers more than anybody's. But training camp feels easy usually the first couple of days because of how hard the ramp up is. But today was actually, again, we have all these new faces, combination, again, of people leaving, but also not all the returners being here. Today was a lot of teaching. So we didn't really go up and down a lot. So the cardio, I don't think for anybody kicked in at any point. I'm sure as the week goes, it'll get a little harder because the one thing that's a little different about this year's ramp up was I didn't really get to play 5-on-5 much. Just given COVID, it not being like readily available. You can't just necessarily, go to the YMCA and find a pickup game. So that part, I think for me will be just the part that the last little bit I got to get is my rhythm in like a 5-on-5 game, coming off a pick and roll, reading those scenarios, that kind of stuff. But as far as like conditioning and how my body feels, I felt pretty good today.
Thanks, Sue.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Kevin. Alexa, go ahead.
Hi, Sue. Hope you're doing well. This is a related question, but when we were talking with Diana earlier, she was saying that the off seasons really tend to feel longer now when you're not playing overseas. And it took some time for, at least for her, to figure out, okay, how much time do I need to be in the gym? How many, vacations can I take without it going, you're on vacation all the time. So how has that just been for you and your experience? And like you said just before, this year's a little different with COVID, but did this off season feel really long, or did it feel like you'd just been back on the floor?
Yeah. I just said today, as we got going with practice, I was like, is it me or does the wobble feel like 2 weeks ago? So in some weird way, I think everybody in this pandemic, like, is it 2020? Is it 2021? Like, who really knows? For a long time, I feel like the joke was that it was March 50th and then March 80th. Like, March didn't want to end in 2020. So I feel like everybody's sense of time is a little off. As far as off seasons in general go, Dee's new to this. I've been doing the no overseas life for a while now. And what I have found is you just got to give your life over to the experts. So I mentioned Susan Borchard's name, somebody who, I don't know when I'm supposed to train and why, and how, what's the best lift to do, and should I swim? Should I, spin? Should I play? So I have, for the last, let me think, gosh, I think like 7 years, I've just handed my life over to her. And, I've seen the success of it all. So I'm all the way bought in. And so whatever she tells me, I do, which is nice. I don't have to think about it. Dee needs to do that.
Thanks, Alexa. Jeff Brown, go ahead. Jeff Brown, you still there? You have a question?
Oh,
There you
hey,
go.
sorry. I think my connection kind of got funky for a moment. Yeah, so Sue, good to see you, first of all. And then second, what have you seen from Kiana Williams, and what do you like about her game, either from today or even just during her time with Stanford?
Yeah. Like I said, today was a lot of teaching. We really didn't play a lot, like only a little bit. So the things that I saw was just a player who, we were actually on the same team, so we were taking turns. Just kind of like she how do I explain it? She was just eager to learn, but not like in a overdoing it kind of way. Like, sometimes players can come into camp and try to show you every aspect of their game within the first 5 minutes. You could sense she has like a very nice disposition about her, where she kind of let things come to her, but was still, like I said, wide-eyed and ready to learn, trying to figure things out as she went. And obviously I watched her at Stanford, played against her last year when we did that USA tour. And, her ability to create her shot off the dribble, her ability to hit the three, those are things that, I can imagine will translate to this level, because that's what you kind of have to have as a part of your game, I think, as a guard, especially as a smaller point guard. So definitely saw a little bit of that today. And I'm sure as camp goes on and we start to play more, we'll see even more of that.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Let's wrap things up today. Percy, take us home.
Awesome. Hey, Sue, it was Dan earlier who said that he thought that a top priority in camp would just be figuring out how you guys are going to play defense, like who is going to do what, and just kind of, just from this year's team, how you guys are going to figure things out, just from your aspect, just your thoughts on that, and just how are you guys going to do things defensively?
I don't think we're going to be like dramatically different from previous years. Obviously, we lost 2 players that are like perennial all defensive players. So from an individual standpoint, you lose those players, you take a hit. I think thematically, though, we're going to be pretty similar, and we'll have to figure it out. I have to say, it took me a minute at the end of practice to for it to click that in reality, we only have myself, Jewel, and Jordan, because Ezzy hasn't even actually played for Dan. Last year, Dan wasn't in the wobble. So we only have 3 players, and we're still missing, I could list them out. You guys already know the players that are overseas. We're still missing quite a few that are very familiar with our systems. And that, to me, is the key. We're not going to do one-on-one defensive drills all day to see see how this works. That's not how basketball is. sometimes if you want to have arguments about who's the best ever, yeah, it's fun to think of it as a one-on-one game, but that's not how our team has ever been. We've always been team oriented, offensively and defensively. And that's a big part of that is chemistry. And so I don't even know if I can give you an answer, like a full answer right now, because we just don't have everybody here. And it's day one of brand new faces. So we didn't even get to cover like 90% of what we usually have in our defensive playbook. But what you did see today was, I mean, I learned this a couple years ago. When you got young legs, you can do a lot. You can do a lot. And we have, the one thing we do have is we got some young legs in this training camp currently. And you can see they cover a lot of ground. I mean, the names that come to mind, Indy Jones did amazing today. She was everywhere. Even Haley Gorecki, like she showed signs of just like activity. So young players have that activity about them, and that can cover a lot of ground. So it might look a little different, but like I said earlier, I think thematically our defense won't really change too much.